I used to think HOA horror stories were exaggerated. You know the ones. Some bored middle-aged woman with a clipboard yelling about trash cans, lawn height, or the color of someone's curtains. I'd watch those videos, shake my head, and think, there's no way people like that actually exist. I was wrong, and I learned that lesson the hard way, while recovering from surgery, barely able to stand on my own, watching an entitled HOA Karen decide she had authority over my medical care. This all started on what should have been one of the quietest, most uneventful mornings imaginable. No arguments. No meetings, no confrontations, just a nurse coming to do her job. 3 months earlier, my life had changed completely. I'd been injured at work, an accident that resulted in a severe spinal injury. I won't go into graphic detail, but the damage was bad enough that surgery wasn't optional. Doctors told me straight up, if you don't do this, you may never walk properly again. The surgery itself went well. The recovery? That was a nightmare. I couldn't bend properly. I couldn't stand for long. Some mornings I couldn't even get out of bed without help. Because of that, my doctor ordered daily home health visits. A licensed visiting nurse would come to my house every morning to clean the surgical site, check for infection, monitor my vitals, and administer medication. This wasn't a luxury. This wasn't convenience. This was medical necessity. Missing even one visit could mean complications, infection, or worse. And that's why every morning at exactly 9 a.m. I waited for the knock at my door like my health depended on it. Because it did. I live in what people would describe as a nice neighborhood. Clean sidewalks, uniform houses, neatly trimmed lawns, the kind of place where people smile at you, but only after checking to make sure you're following the rules. Yes, it's an HOA neighborhood. At first, I thought the HOA was fine. Annoying, sure, but manageable. Monthly emails about parking, occasional reminders about trash bins, nothing outrageous. That was before Linda. Linda wasn't just part of the HOA. Linda was the HOA. She was the vice president, though she acted like the president, the manager, the sheriff, and the judge all rolled into one. Mid-50s, short blonde hair, always wearing sunglasses, even when it was cloudy, and carrying a clipboard like it was an extension of her arm. She had that look. The one that says, I've been waiting for someone to mess up. From the moment I moved in, she watched me. Not casually, not politely, watched me. She commented on my car. She questioned my work-from-home schedule. She once left a violation notice because my trash bin was out 3 minutes past the allowed time. 3 minutes? But even with all that, I never imagined she'd cross this line. That morning started like every other. I woke up stiff, sore, and exhausted. Pain radiated down my back as I slowly sat up, bracing myself against the bed. I took a moment to breathe, then carefully used my walker to make my way to the living room. I checked the clock. 8:57 a.m. Good. Maria would be here any minute. Maria was my visiting nurse. She'd been coming for weeks, and she was honestly the one bright spot in my recovery. Calm, professional, kind. She always explained what she was doing, never rushed me, and treated me like a human being, not a problem. At exactly 9:02 a.m. I heard the knock. That familiar, reassuring knock. I shuffled toward the door and opened it. Maria stood there in navy blue scrubs, her medical bag slung over her shoulder, her ID badge clearly visible. Good morning, she said warmly. How are you feeling today? I was about to answer when, Hey, excuse me! The voice came from behind her. Sharp, loud, angry. Maria flinched slightly and turned around. I already knew who it was. Linda was marching up my driveway like she owned it. Clipboard in hand, jaw clenched, eyes narrowed. The way she walked, you'd think she'd just caught someone committing a crime. And apparently in her mind, she had. Linda didn't even look at me. She pointed directly at Maria. Who are you? She snapped. And why are you trespassing in this community? Maria blinked, clearly surprised by the hostility. I'm a registered visiting nurse, she said calmly. I'm here to provide medical care. Linda let out a short, dismissive laugh. Oh, so now anyone can just walk into our neighborhood and claim they're medical staff? I felt my stomach tighten. Linda, I said, trying to stay calm. She's my nurse. She comes here every day. Linda finally looked at me, her expression full of irritation. That doesn't matter, she said sharply. All service providers must be approved by the HOA. Maria raised her ID badge slightly. I'm licensed by the state, she explained. This is medically required care. Linda waved her hand like she was brushing off an inconvenience. I don't care. You don't have an HOA permit, you didn't check in, and you're not authorized to be here. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She's not a contractor, I said. She's a nurse. Linda stepped closer to Maria, physically blocking the path to my front door. She's not entering this house. Maria looked uncomfortable now, her voice still calm but more cautious. Sir, she said to me, I need to clean your incision today. Skipping care could cause serious complications. Linda crossed her arms. Not my problem. That was the moment shock turned into anger. You're interfering with medical care, I said firmly. Linda smirked. Oh, please, you look fine. Fine. I was standing there with a walker, barely able to stay upright. Maria shifted her weight, clearly unsure what to do. I don't want to cause any trouble, she said, but I'm required to provide this care. Linda raised her voice, loud enough for nearby neighbors to hear. This is a private community. You do not have permission to be here. Curtains started moving. Garage doors paused mid-close. People were watching, and Linda loved it. What happened next would cross a line she could never uncross. At that point, I still believed, naively, that this could be resolved with logic. I thought if I explained things clearly, if I stayed calm, if I reminded Linda that this wasn't about lawns or parking or trash bins, she'd back off. I was wrong. People like Linda don't back off when you're reasonable. They escalate. Linda planted her feet in front of my door like a bouncer at a nightclub. Step away from the entrance, she barked at Maria. Maria looked at me, uncertainty and concern written all over her face. I'm sorry, she said quietly, but I really do need to see you today. Your chart notes. Linda cut her off. I don't care about your chart, she snapped. I care about HOA regulations. That sentence alone told me everything I needed to know about her priorities. You don't have the authority to do this, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. This is my home. Linda turned on me instantly. You agreed to HOA rules when you moved in, she said. Those rules apply to everyone. Not to medical emergencies, I shot back. She laughed. This isn't an emergency. I stared at her, stunned. You are not my doctor, I said. You don't get to decide that. Maria took a small step forward. Ma'am, she said carefully, interfering with medical treatment can have legal consequences. That was the wrong thing to say. Linda's eyes narrowed. Oh, are you threatening me now? No, Maria replied. I'm informing you. Linda turned toward the street and raised her voice again. Everyone, listen. This woman is running an unauthorized operation out of this house. I could feel my face burning. She's humiliating you on purpose, I whispered to Maria. Maria nodded slightly, clearly shaken but trying to stay professional. I've never had this happen before, she said quietly. Linda wasn't done. Linda flipped open her clipboard and started pretending to read from it. HOA Code 7.3, she announced dramatically. No unapproved commercial activity. This isn't commercial, I said. It's healthcare. She smirked. Healthcare, haircuts, house cleaning, it's all the same. That's when my disbelief turned into pure rage. You are comparing medical care to a haircut? I snapped. Linda leaned in closer to Maria. You need to leave, now. Maria hesitated. Sir, she said to me, if I miss today's care, I'll have to report it as an interrupted visit. Linda snapped her fingers. Not my concern. I felt powerless. Every movement sent pain through my back, and here I was, stuck watching someone abuse authority while my nurse stood there being bullied. Linda, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady, I am asking you to step away from my door. She ignored me. Instead, she reached out and grabbed Maria's arm. Hard. Hey! Maria yanked her arm back instinctively. Don't touch me, she shouted, fear and anger finally breaking through her calm. I felt a surge of adrenaline. What the hell is wrong with you? I yelled. Linda looked almost offended. I'm escorting her off HOA property. Maria held her arm, her voice trembling. You just assaulted me. Linda rolled her eyes. Oh, don't be dramatic. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. You do not get to lay hands on her, I said. Back away, now. Linda scoffed. Or what? I didn't answer her. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Linda's expression shifted instantly. What are you doing? She demanded. I put the phone on speaker. Yes, I said clearly. I need police assistance. An HOA board member is physically preventing my nurse from providing medical care and just grabbed her arm. There was a pause. Linda went pale. The dispatcher started asking questions. Address. Names. What happened? As I answered, Linda tried to regain control. This is ridiculous, she said loudly. I didn't touch anyone. Maria lifted her arm. You grabbed me right here. 2 neighbors had stepped outside by now. I saw it, one of them said. So did I, another added. Linda's confidence crumbled. She started pacing. "You're all blowing this out of proportion." The dispatcher's voice came through the phone. "Sir, officers are on the way. Please remain where you are." Linda froze. She stared at me like I'd betrayed her personally. "You're making a big mistake," she hissed. I looked her straight in the eye. "No," I said, "you did." The moment the dispatcher said officers were on the way, the atmosphere on my driveway changed completely. The smug confidence Linda had been wearing like armor started to crack. Not all at once, but enough for me to see the panic creeping in behind her eyes. She stopped pacing and straightened her posture, smoothing her shirt like she was preparing for a performance. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head as she tried to figure out how to spin this in her favor. Maria stood quietly beside me now, clutching her medical bag like a lifeline. Her hands were shaking. "I'm so sorry this is happening," she whispered. "This is not your fault," I said firmly. "Not even a little." Linda overheard us and scoffed. "Oh, please," she said loudly. "You're acting like I committed a felony." "You assaulted a nurse and blocked medical care," I replied. "That's not nothing." Linda laughed nervously. "You really think the police are going to side with her over the HOA?" That sentence alone told me she still didn't understand the seriousness of what she'd done. While we waited, Linda pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. "I'm calling property management," she announced. "They'll clear this up." Maria glanced at me. "She's trying to intimidate us," she said quietly. Linda put her phone to her ear and spoke loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Yes, this is Linda, HOA Vice President. I have an unauthorized individual trespassing and a homeowner refusing compliance." She shot me a glare. "I need this documented." I shook my head in disbelief. She really thought this was an HOA issue, not a legal one. A few moments later, she hung up and crossed her arms triumphantly. "There," she said, "this will be resolved." Just then we heard sirens. 2 police cars turned onto our street, red and blue lights flashing. Linda's face drained of color. The cars stopped right in front of my house. Officers stepped out calmly but alert, scanning the scene. One of them approached us. "What seems to be the problem here?" Linda didn't hesitate. She stepped forward immediately. "Officer, thank goodness you're here," she said, putting on her most concerned voice. "This woman is trespassing and running an illegal business out of this home. I was simply enforcing HOA regulations." The officer turned toward Maria. "Ma'am?" Maria took a deep breath and handed him her credentials. "I'm a licensed visiting nurse," she said. "I'm here to provide medically prescribed home care. This woman physically grabbed me and prevented me from treating my patient." The officer's expression changed instantly. "Physically grabbed you?" Linda interrupted. "That's not what happened." The officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, you'll get your turn." That shut Linda up. The officer looked at Maria's arm. "Do you have any marks?" "There's redness," Maria said, "and witnesses." The officer turned to the neighbors. "Did anyone see what happened?" Hands went up. "Yes." She grabbed her. "I watched the whole thing." Linda started shaking her head. "You're all mistaken." The second officer stepped closer to her. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "interfering with medical care is a serious matter." Linda scoffed again, but this time it sounded forced. "I'm HOA Vice President." The officer didn't even blink. "That doesn't give you authority over medical professionals." The officer turned back to Maria. "Ma'am, would you like to press charges for assault and interference with medical services?" There was a brief silence. Maria looked at me. I nodded. She turned back to the officer. "Yes," she said, "I would." Linda's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious." The officer reached for his handcuffs. "Ma'am, please turn around." Linda stepped back. "This is insane. I was doing my job." "No," the officer replied. "You were breaking the law." The sound of metal clicking shut echoed across the street. Neighbors gasped. Linda started yelling. "You can't arrest me. I run this HO." The officer responded calmly. "Not today." The moment the handcuffs snapped shut around Linda's wrists, the entire street went silent. Not the calm, peaceful kind of silence, but the heavy, uncomfortable kind where everyone realizes they've just witnessed something they'll be talking about for years. Linda stood there, frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like her brain couldn't process what was happening. You can't do this," she stammered. "This is a misunderstanding." The officer gently but firmly guided her hands behind her back. "Ma'am, you're being detained for assault and interference with medical services." Linda's voice jumped an octave. "Detained? For what?" "For grabbing a licensed nurse and preventing medical care," the officer repeated. She laughed, loud, shrill, and completely unhinged. "This is ridiculous. I was enforcing HOA rules." The second officer shook his head. HOA rules do not override state and federal law. That sentence hit her like a brick. Linda twisted around, looking at the neighbors. Did you see this? She shouted. They're arresting me for doing my job. No one spoke. A few people looked away. Others stared at the ground. Some just watched, wide-eyed. The confidence she'd always relied on was gone. She turned toward me, eyes blazing. You set me up, she hissed. I didn't raise my voice. You assaulted my nurse, I said calmly. This is on you. Maria stood beside me, her shoulders still tense but her posture steady. I was just trying to do my job, she said softly. Linda snapped. Oh, shut up. That was the last straw. The officer tightened his grip slightly. Ma'am, you need to calm down. Linda's anger exploded. I pay HOA dues here. I have authority. The officer didn't even flinch. Authority doesn't work like that. As the officers escorted Linda toward the police car, she continued yelling. You're all going to regret this. This neighborhood will fall apart without me. You'll hear from my lawyer. No one responded. Her heels clicked against the pavement, slower now, less confident. She glanced back one last time, expecting, hoping, someone would defend her. No one did. The car door opened. She hesitated. You're making a huge mistake, she said one last time. The officer replied calmly. No, ma'am, you did. The door closed. And just like that, the woman who had terrorized this neighborhood for years was gone. One of the officers returned to us. Sir, he said to me, are you okay? I nodded. I am now. He turned to Maria. Ma'am, thank you for your professionalism. You're free to continue providing care. Maria exhaled deeply, relief washing over her face. Thank you, she said. As the police cars pulled away, neighbors slowly retreated back inside their homes. No one said a word. The same people who used to nod silently when Linda barked orders suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. Maria turned to me. Are you okay to continue today? I smiled faintly. Yes, I said, please. We walked inside, closed the door, and for the first time all morning, the house was quiet. But the consequences were only just beginning. For the rest of that day, I felt like I was living in some kind of surreal aftershock. Maria finished my treatment in silence at first, both of us still processing what had just happened outside my front door. My hands were shaking, not from pain this time, but from adrenaline finally wearing off. I've never been arrested, Maria said quietly as she packed up her medical supplies. But I've also never seen someone arrested for trying to stop me from doing my job. I nodded. I never thought I'd be the reason someone went to jail before lunch. She gave a small, tired smile. You didn't do this, she said. She did. That was an important reminder, one I needed. 2 days later, I received an email from the HOA. Not from Linda. From the board. The subject line read, Formal apology and notice of action. I opened it slowly. The message was short, stiff, and clearly written by a lawyer. They apologized for the unacceptable behavior of a board member. They confirmed Linda had been immediately removed from her position. They stated the HOA fully supports residents receiving necessary medical care. No mention of rules, no excuses, no arrogance, just damage control. A few hours later, another email followed. This one stated that all visiting medical professionals were exempt from HOA approvals, effective immediately. Funny how fast policies change when handcuffs are involved. I didn't hear much at first, but in neighborhoods like this, news travels fast. Linda was charged with misdemeanor assault and interference with medical services. She was fined and ordered to complete community service. Her name was quietly removed from every HOA document. Her once powerful presence? Gone. I later learned she tried to argue that she was just doing her job. The judge didn't buy it. Apparently, neither did anyone else. Something else changed too. Neighbors who used to avoid me suddenly started smiling. One woman stopped by with cookies. Another apologized for not stepping in sooner. People started speaking up at HOA meetings. The fear Linda had cultivated evaporated, all because one person finally said enough. Maria continued coming every morning without issue. No more harassment, no more clipboards, no more yelling. Just medical care, as it should have been from the start. Here's the thing about people like Linda. They don't start out trying to control medical care. They start small. Trash cans, parking spots, pet rules. And every time no one pushes back, they grow bolder. Until one day, they think they're above the law. But authority isn't something you get to invent. And no HOA rule in the world gives someone the right to put their hands on another person or endanger someone's health. If there's one thing I learned from all this, it's this. Never let someone with a clipboard convince you they have power they don't. Especially when your health, or someone else's safety, is on the line. Because sometimes the only way entitlement ends is with consequences.